set properly. Now we've got recording in progress. So don't get overwhelmed by the volume of the course. Just focus on the slides, the training material, or anything that I teach you in the class. That's going to cover the concept. It's going to give you the foundation, and basically anything that requires more focus in terms of what is going to be coming in the CIRS exams. That's where I'm going to basically just keep pounding on and keep giving you those specific concepts and give you that piece of information that you can always elaborate later with the reference books and guides and so on. But I think we'll be able to cover about enough that you won't really have to, go through too much from the book. So that's going to be my goal. Second thing is that there is a gap of technical background which sort of connects with the first module that we call the internet technology. So, knowing that most or some of you may not have that strong of a background in technology, I would be able to give you a bit of a basic concept as well as give you a sort of to explain things in a layman's language, so it's not difficult for you to understand. Um, and some of you may be ahead in technology than others. So you'll have to be patient and understand that not everybody is at the same level. So that's going to be a bit of a gap. And we definitely will start with module 1, which is the technology part. So, you would think that just starting off with the technology might, sort of make you think that it's a difficult course when it's not. Really, when we get to the module 2, which is where we find almost like 60 or 70% of what the book contains, because it's a massive area where we are talking about online research, everything to do with the query foundations, how we're going to build queries and so on. So that is the bulk of it, and that would be more fun. But the technology at the very basic level, just to make things easier for you when we get to the module 2, that is the idea. And I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. And at the same time, you're free to ask any questions. Best way is just if you can just put your question in the chat box, which is what I'm sure you must have discovered by now. At least Melissa has. She's sent me a message. So you can put your question there. And then as soon as I find a gap in between the flow of how things are getting explained, I would be able to attend to it. Okay. I don't know what's happening with Anna. She's holding me back. There she is. Finally, she made it in the class. And now I just have to ask her to turn on the mic. Anna, can you hear me? You finally are able to get in. And it was like one of those things where I thought, if you don't get in within the next few minutes, I'll have to start. So now that you're in, can you hear me, and can you see the video, the cam? You can just put something in the chat box if you like, just so I know, and then we can get started. There, Anna. Hi there.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, good enough. Admira or Dorothy, can any one of you start? Just give me a clue, a background, just a very brief on about yourself, or the reason you're starting, you're getting into this, and
Sure.
if I can help you in certain areas.
Okay, I'm happy to jump in. I'm Admira. I'm really doing this out of curiosity because I just I always find I'm doing either for work or just my own personal interest, like some research, and I just never know how to go. I don't feel like I'm getting the best use of the internet that I could. I find people find things where I never seem to be able to find them. So it was really a curiosity thing. And then it'll of course help in anything I do, the better I am at researching the
So what type of research are you in with your
well, so I'm in
profession?
branding. So we do a lot of like competitive research, whether it be other communication materials or advertising. So anything that the companies are communicating.
Sure. So on the marketing side, that's what you're developing.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for letting me know and for everybody to know also. How about you, Anna? What's your motivation? What's your
Well,
interest? What do you like to search for mostly on the
well,
internet?
it's somewhat what the other lady said, only I'm a lawyer, and it's sometimes very difficult to get to the very end of a case. And I think that if I had better tools, I'd be able to do that faster.
Okay, so legal research is your area, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Melissa, can you add something about yourself or background? How interest in taking the course? You there?
Yes, for me, it's not really a work related interest for now. I would say
All
maybe
right.
in the future, it's more personal that I would say that I'm interested in finding better ways to research and getting better results or more accurate results and learning
Are
how
you
to.
planning to, sorry for the interruption. Are you planning to start your own business by any chance? Or as independently, offer your research services?
On
Or
this,
any one of you?
yes.
Okay, so that's what I thought. Okay, good. So we have module 3, which is going to cover, some of the ways in which you can start your own business as an independent consultant, particularly in research part. So that's going to be interesting for you. Dorothy, are you there?
Yes. Yes, I'm interested in possibly starting my own business as well. I'm in, I work with low income individuals and I look for resources for them. It's something as a 211 operator, those type of
Okay.
services in the nonprofit that I work for. But I'm
Is
also
it
interested in learning as much as I can in regards to research.
okay? So you're more on the virtual assistance side, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I get that. And then we have Michelle, eh?
Hello there.
Hi, is this Michelle?
Yes, this is Michelle.
All right.
I was a librarian. I have a master's in library and information science. And in the very early days of Google, I was a contractor who tested out some of the search engine things that they were developing, Google Maps, that sort of thing. Natural language processing, which was kind of new back then.
Right,
I'm
right.
interested in adding to my technical knowledge because I have interest in intellectual property, legal, and possibly doing consulting because I've worked with museums and libraries. So I would kind of like to expand.
Are you actively in job right now, or?
I'm not. I moved to Texas and wasn't able to land a librarian gig here because we don't really support libraries here, but I'm planning to move back to California next year. So I think it would be good to refresh my skills before I move.
Certainly, we have a lot of students that are coming from librarian backgrounds. Obviously, that is purely, or you could say that it is one of those sciences which are really into discovering knowledge. So that sort of is where I find a lot of students of mine coming from library systems and like you said, all that you've mentioned. So good enough. As far as the legal part is concerned, we have two people who are particularly interested in this area. And then we have one, which is Admira. She's actually into business and business intelligence, marketing, and so on. So, and Melissa, and what's Anna is going to be interested, or she's planning to start her own business. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody. There is the 13 people who are registered in our group, which is what we call them batches. So this batch that I'm teaching has got 13 students enrolled. And I don't know, for some reason, maybe because it's the first class, we have only we are 5 of us, and so actually 6 of us. So rest of them hasn't joined us yet. Hopefully they'll do it sometimes next week. And so it's going to be more interesting and more interactive, hopefully. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to start with introducing you to my slideshow, which is the PowerPoint. That's what I use to basically, where is it? I have to move this part out of my way there. And now I can pull the PowerPoint. So that's going to be a roadmap. PowerPoints are helpful for me to see where I have to take you from point A to point B. And then I'm sure you must have looked at the syllabus. If not, it's there in your Dropbox. If you look at how it is set, you can see where we are going to go from one topic to another. I have one thing that I'll tell you, might have not to call it a situation, but really I do more of a customized teaching. I don't really go by the script as much. So there could be instances where I'll put my own script, or maybe I'll just put something as an edit slides, or something that might just shape up differently. So what you have there in your Dropbox is a standard slides or the PowerPoints. And then what I would be doing is that I'll be upgrading or adding to it. So anytime you're going to look at what you have there in your Dropbox might be changed slightly. So you may want to, and it's updated automatically. As soon as I make the change, I put it in there. So anytime you have to revert back to look at the PowerPoints, you would find, and there could be a gap of 24 hours. So you should be able to find everything in there in case you want to catch up or catch on with what we discuss. And if you miss any classes, there would be a recording available in next 24 hours. Why it is so is because there's a time gap between how, we need to edit out some of the parts in the recording and then upload the entire file, which is a very heavy file. And therefore, it takes about, that much time. So given all that, I'm just going to pull another PowerPoint, which is where we're going to start with the technology. It's called web search technology. Now, am I sharing this screen with you now? You can see it?
Yep.
All right. And
Yes.
thank you very much.
Yes.
So let's try to run the slides. So web search technology. Did you know that there is a difference between what browser is about and what search engine is? We don't want to confuse these two terms. It is obviously going to be two different areas of technology that we'll have to look up separately, but they work together, obviously, that you know. However, the browser itself is a program that sits on your computer. I don't know if you know that back when the browser technology started and the internet was about to get that energy and get that recognition, there used to be open source code or open source software available for anyone to use and to make it into a browser. So browser is not as complex. It is more of a technology that is used to communicate between what the user is doing in sort of a framework or within an environment that we call the browser, that we have different types of browsers now. It's a Chrome, there is Bing and all that. But the search engine side is more complex because that's where you're going to communicate with the browser to get your pages in your SERPs or search engine result pages. Now, with the search engine itself, you have to imagine as if it is an environment or it's an ecosystem. It's not just one big server or anything that is just just one machine. It is an environment that consists of several different servers, and those servers are sitting in something we call, or they're housed in something we call data centers. So the data centers are spread all across the globe, and they are pretty much like an environment which is used to collect the web pages and then serve it to the users through the browser. Browser has its own technology, as I said, but the technology that the browser uses is somewhat uh, particular or very peculiar about where it is going to take you to get those pages, or the relationship between the browser and the search engine is such that your behavior within the browser for doing your searches would command the search engine to act in a certain way. So anything that is done on the browser side, it collects information, it looks at your behavior, it collects your recent history, your purchase history, your different interests, and anything that it can gather, and then influences the search engine to serve pages that perhaps where you thought is going to be a command that is serving exactly as you want, but rather the search engine uh, has the ability to influence the search results by looking up the data that is collected on the browser side. So they are both, in fact, browser is the main influencer for search engine to serve you as it wants, or as we call an implied logic that it uses, which is not the same as what you express in your search queries, meaning that the words or the search phrases or the search terms, we call them, that's the easiest way, search terms, let's say, that you put in your browser is explicitly mentioned, or it's an explicit command. But in response to your explicit command, what the search engine would serve as result pages may be different for what you are searching versus if anybody else is searching through their browsers from another location. So it may not give you exact same results, or there could be a bias which the search engine imposes. That bias is called implied context. We are not going to get there yet, but just so that you understand the differentiation between how the browser acts and where the search engine is different, and how browser influences the search results. These are two different environments. Okay. Let's look at the overview of how the internet is set up. Okay. We have to recognize a certain areas or certain demarcations or certain boundaries that deliver or serve or communicate with each other. someone has joined us, Sanders. I haven't a clue. So who Sanders is? So let's see. Just give me a moment before I get going with this slide. Unfortunately, that's where the drawback is. Even with Zoom, when we give give an option to join, it is going to ask me to admit someone, and I have to do it physically. It's not automated, and that's just to prevent someone who's not registered to enter um, into our class. So let me see. Crystal, hi Crystal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So yeah, we just got introduced with each other. We sort of just started with the internet technology part, and we'll just carry on with what we're doing. And since you joined us a little bit late, so if you can just follow as we continue, that would be great. I'm coming back to the slide and I'm going to start with it again just for your benefit. Um, let's see. All right. Wow. Anna wants to rejoin again. What's going on? Yeah, I think that this would be a kind of a disruption. So what I'll do tomorrow when we get to the next class, I'll make it an automated process, get that security thing taken off. So there is no interruption. Anybody who comes in can join in with that link. That should be fine. Okay, so let's just continue with the way the internet works. We're just dividing it into different zones or different elements, let's just call them. They are separated or they are sort of shown here in this slide as the main items or the main elements that have numbers on it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and anything that is placed inside of the circle is basically talking about an environment that pertains to the number 5. Same thing with number 6. So let's start with what we have in the first one. It's very basic knowledge. I'm sure you all know. There is two types of application that run on your machine. One is web application that would only work within the browser framework. The browser is responsible for making anything to work on your machine when that software or that application is connected through the internet. So even if you don't use, let's say at times there are certain subscriptions that you download, those programs are coming to your machine as small files. So they are not whole elaborate programs, but they are about enough script or enough of the coding that authenticates you as a user and allows you to connect with the main software that is running in the cloud. Cloud is where the server is put inside of a ISP or service provider environment. So whenever you are connecting with through the software into the server, it is actually doing it through a browser, or it has its own browser, even if it is not Chrome or if it is something other than Google. Whatever browser is your default browser, that application will work inside of it. So without browser, no application is going to work. That's web applications. Then we have local application that you download and you install on your machine as the entire program. You remember we used to do that with CDs. We used to install it locally on our machine that wouldn't really connect with the internet. But these days we have a hybrid system, which means it could be an application that you may have downloaded or it's installed on your local system, on your operating system like Mac, or it could be Windows, whatever whatever the operating system, this application is running mainly on your machine, so it is using your own resources. But because it could be hybrid in the sense that it would actually authenticate your subscription keys or something of value, that is that is not running the program or is not responsible for running the entire or the entire execution of the program, but it is authenticating something. So those are local programs. In any case, we are more interested in the second one, which is web applications. So the connectivity is the next thing. Now that we know this web applications and non-web or local application, there is the connectivity, which is what's going to link you to the internet. So the connection is provided by something we called, or the kind of environments which we call the bandwidth providers. They could be using the actual pipes or actual physical wires and cables, or it could be wireless. But those are the people that would provide you the bandwidth or the connectivity for, or gives you the amount of connectivity that you require, or you want to use as a bandwidth. So examples of the bandwidth providers are AT&T, and then there is Verizon, and there is many others. In Canada, we have Rogers, and so on. But those are the ones who actually own the pipes or own the bandwidths. So they are called bandwidth providers. Then there is a second environment, which is what we call ISPs, or internet service providers. ISPs are really the ones who actually are staging the websites, or the ones that actually are responsible for making the websites visible on the internet, or for the domains to be hosted on certain servers under controlled environments, where the service provider is also ensuring that the system would not go down, or they would be managing the entire website for security as well as its ability to be visible on the internet. So anytime, and this is not the only case where ISPs are the only ones that are actually holding the websites. Because there are certain corporations or large enterprises that have their own sort of in-house hosting environments. Hosting means that these are specialized servers that we call web servers, and usually they are three-tier servers, meaning that it has a website files, as well as the database, as well as the management team that glues everything together for their customers or the owners of those websites. So this is ISPs, or internet service providers. The other environment that is most important is number 6. This is the data center of search engines, or main search engines like Google or Bing, assuming that the search engine itself is a distribution of servers, or it is the capacity holders, or it is the one that is bringing all those web pages to be indexed in their systems or in their servers. They are going to be spread all over the globe, or they would be internationally present. Most of the data centers are hidden from public view because of security, as well as their presence is internationally, across the border. So for the data center to be assumed or to be known as the search engine alone is not enough. What is search engine is really the connectivity of all the data centers with each other, because the connectivity is responsible for ensuring that web pages that are collected from the ISPs are duplicated, replicated, and basically are spread and across with the rest of the data center. So there is a uniformity and there's a homogeneous collection. The only difference is that any data center, assuming if it's North America, for instance, it has got a certain type of pages that is easy to discover, or it is mostly carrying those type of information pages that pertains to the North American consumers, or it is caching those pages. Caching is a technology which actually brings the pages and holds it for easier and ready availability into their data centers. So once those pages are cached and they are called by users in North America, it would push only those pages in terms of ranking or in terms of what precedes what, or what is given a higher priority based on so many different factors that we call ranking factors, which would be responsible for delivering it to the North American consumers as being more popular or as being more, called for. So that particularly is serving the North American area. And then, of course, there are certain laws, certain type of restrictions, certain filtering, which is different in, let's say, Eastern Europe or in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia or Middle East area. So the Google has a responsibility to basically put a check on or bring only those pages which it thinks are is going to serve better for that particular region. So even though all the data centers are connected or are replicating those pages, but its ability to produce something or bring something under the ranking algorithm might appear different, and certain type of information may actually would never even show up for that other region. So it has those checks and balances. It is a very sophisticated environment. But what you have to understand as a user or someone who is just trying to understand the technology is that you have to just focus on the simpler aspects of it, which means to know that the search engine is an environment. That's number one. Number two is when you connect through your browser, you are basically calling for information pages in your data in the data center of Google, let's say, if you're using Chrome. So with the Chrome, you're connecting to 2 is connecting with 6. Okay. You have nothing to do with 5. But what 5 is telling you is that the pages or the website itself, when it comes up or it's turned on the first time, it is actually serving pages, or it is showing up on the internet through the ISP platform. And what Google is doing is collecting all those web pages connected to domains to be and fetching those and bringing it into the repository of indexes that it has in its data centers, so that it is available for the users to be able to look for, and therefore there is a there is a connectivity between the browser and the data center. So leaving out 5, we would be talking more about 2 and 6. 2 is not as much, but in terms of how the web pages carry certain type of information, that's what we are going to discover. And then in 6, we are going to talk about the indexing system, or how the search engines are indexing those pages, rather than, and it has a system or a database which is totally different from traditional database that we call RDBMS, or relational database management system. That's what you see in the libraries mostly, and pretty much is used, has been used as a standard database that we know of. But when we talk about the search engine, we talk about terms like indexing, and talking about ranking and and everything that has to do with discovering information through words or through search phrases, or it is discovered linguistically. We are talking about a different database that we call textual database. Textual database has a technology which is linguistic intelligence. In short, you can think of it as a logic that is built into, or the intelligence that is built into the words or how you are going to phrase certain things, and it is going to make sense out of it through its semantics or textual semantics. Textual semantics is the technology, and indexing system itself is textual index, or it is a textual database. So these are the terms that I have used today, so that you can, if you don't follow it in the next few lectures, or if you want more, or if you want me to explain it more, I can do it later when we actually talk about 2 and we talk about 6 indexing. So in 2, what we will be discovering is, by the way, we do take a 10 minutes break in between each lecture, so that you have time to actually go and make yourself some coffee, and it just becomes too much information. So we do take that break, and we can take it anytime. I usually like to take it about this time. Once I've covered, you know, some of the slides that and for me to just stop at this right now, so that when we get to the next concept, or the second uh, second segment, we can continue with a different, or something new. So I'm going to take the break right now, and I'll see you in about 10 minutes. And that's going to be exact 10 minutes. All right. So let's just take a short break right now. I'll see you. And if you have any questions during what we did so far, you can put it in the chat box. This is a good time to do that. I'll see you in a little bit. Thanks. Okay, hi again. I'm back. Let's continue. If you're all there, let's make sure that you can see my screen and my voice is clear. So we start with the second part of our lecture today. We'll talk about search engine textual database and what it means and how it is different from relational database or standard database. So we'll be discovering the differences. And let's look at this slide right here. A typical database that we are used to, or what is still being used, the RDBMS is shown here in this area where my pointer is. Standard database is simpler in the sense that if you have a certain type of information or you have to search for something. As an example, we're looking at a student search. And if we have a student ID or a student name, we should be able to pull record of the course that student has taken. And then, if it is a non-degree or degree, if it's a degree course, it would take you further and you can do more of search to find out about the certification that a student is doing. So it sort of starts to build a relationship with each other in terms of where you have initiated the search in your first selection, and then it creates a thread. It creates a relationship and a thread that gives or pulls further information deep down by calling into the relational attributes that are attached to that particular query as in student starting from student ID or student name. So it is very simple and it is not as difficult for the search to execute um, because it is moving into a zone which is connection of attributes that pertains to that particular student. So this is the simplest way of explaining it. But when you compare it to the textual database, you would see that the web pages or what is shown here as the one that says web index pages could be any number of pages. And these pages are nothing but textual content. So it has a lot of information which is linguistically inclined, and therefore the search has to match the words or the phrases or the search terms that you're looking for and pull that specific page. As an example, take the word market research. So if this is the page, now, let me tell you that we are going into layers. We're starting for something which is extremely basic and which would sort of makes you think that it is, something that you already know of. But because it is important for others or ones that may not even know this, so we're just going to go through it quickly. It's not a difficult concept so far. So with the pages, you could see that there could be a content. An example is this part, a small piece. With the indexing system and with the way search engine is holding the database is basically a database of all these words that together make that content. And within the body of this text, you could see that it is matching the word market research, okay? Or it could be matching target markets or business strategy, depending on what you are searching for. And because individually these are words, or we call them keywords, together with addition of more words, it is going to create a phrase or number of words individually. When we say keywords, they are each data objects or each word is considered to be data elements. So market in this case is one word or a one keyword, but it is somewhat comparable to how you would put, like student name, for instance, That could be one thing. And the attributes that is connecting to is the course, for instance. So as a single word, market could be, assuming you just have to visualize, it's just hypothetical, could be one element of data, and it has a tendency to connect with what is next to it, as a phrase which says market research together, and it connects automatically and starts to make different variations of combinations of words, and therefore it makes it more complex. So in essence, if you count number of words and compare it with the individual attributes on student search, you could see that the content itself has got enormous amount of data and individual keywords that far exceeds what we see in the RDBMS. So for the search engine, it has to have some logic built into it so that it understands the language part and understands the combination of words as making sense, and therefore it has the ability to look for or search for something in a more heuristic way. That means it's going to look at all of the content at once and not go through a process, which means that with one click in student name, you're going to get one piece of information which leads you to another piece of information in a hierarchical way. But in the textual database, it is not how it is set in RDBMS. Rather, it is looked at as objects, and objects together or in isolation or in combination or in longer phrases is linguistically, uh, it has to be, first of all, linguistically correct. And second of all, it has to match with what you are searching for as combination of words, and therefore it is more complex. All right. So that is the basic understanding of the difference between how web search textual database is different from RDBMS. We don't need to learn more than this at the time when we are starting off. So things will get more complex later. And the reason we are doing these so that you can keep this in your perspective is that we would be trying to understand how the content pages are laid out and how the query is matched so that you have more control over what operators to use with the understanding of how it is going to behave with what you wrote as a search query. So, and where it is going to operate or where it's going to match those words on those content pages, because each individual content page that is discovered through these snippets is what we see, right? So these are the discovered pages. This is one example. We're looking for Wikipedia. So this page has, it's going to have a content that is separated into different areas. And different areas of that page means that certain operators would only query that specific area of that page. Therefore, for your better understanding of how certain operators are going to look for either the title part of something, or it is going to go and do deeper search for you, there would be another set of operator which is going to look for or match words within rest of the body of text. And then there is another area which is the footer part, and then there are links in there, different URLs, that is, and certain type of operators would only look for those URLs. So this is the logic, and this is why we are learning about this. So without making it complex, I would think that to begin with, you would have to look at it in the sense of how I'm explaining, rather than going deeper into where the operators are going to work. We'll cover that later. So let's just focus on the one portion of it, or to see where the snippet, this part, by the way, I'm sure you've heard of snippet. Snippet is all these pages or all these different number of small pieces of information that comes in set of 3 basically is presented, and each of these are called snippets. So a typical snippet has a URL on top. It has the part which is in blue color or purple, turns purple later, but this part, which is a brief information or more a meta level information about the page, is called the title or the title element. The third one, which is more detailed, and it is in, as you could see, that this part, which is more extensive and is highlighting some of the keywords that you're searching for. This part is called the description, and this is the third element. So individually, each of the, and by the way, favicon is just a small logo or a small image that becomes visible. So, and it doesn't have a value for us as someone who has to read through the snippet to figure out what it's about. Perhaps the image is just has a visual value, nothing more than that. So URL, title, and description, these 3 elements we are going to talk about. And where are these pulled from? Because after all, we only get to see the snippet to get basic info before we can click on it. So to make a decision on whether or not to click, or it has sufficient, or it has a theme in the description that serves our purpose, we are going to click on it. So that decision is made at the time when you are reviewing the snippets. Where is this information being pulled? That is most important, because remember I told you about different areas in the content page that discovers this info depending on how you set your query. So just focusing on where it's pulled from, take each of these pieces of information I'm giving you separate from where I'm connecting it to, so that you don't get confused. That is just additional information you don't need right away. But we are now going to talk about where this information is getting pulled. Few slides we don't have to worry about. I'm going to skip them because they could be redundant, or it could be something you don't need to know right away. So let's look at this one. I'm just going to ask you to ignore the part on the left-hand side, because this is actually part of more detailed info. Once we get to know how the content page is set, only then you'll be able to understand what's on the left-hand side. So for now, I just want you to focus on where my arrow is pointing on the right. You could see this area, and it is showing the snippet. It is showing the web page that you could see behind what is shown in this dark gray color as bunch of lines with the code and all that. So the one that is behind is the page itself, which is what turns up when you click on this link. And what you are looking at in this dark gray area as the codes, this is what the search engine is reading. I don't know if you know that the search engine hardly reads what you see as users. It doesn't have the it doesn't entertain the fact that, you know, what the users are seeing or looking at is the entire information that's collected at the time when it is indexing those pages. It is actually looking at the code or the backend, or it is reading the HTML, which is what is running behind the web page itself, or where the HTML is the program that is responsible for making those pages appear, you know, in nice colors and layout and all that. So important for you to know is that the search engine is reading the code. It's not reading what you're looking at as a user. In other words, there are certain information sets that are discovered or that is collected at the time of indexing by search, by reading through the code. Information that I'm talking, which is not visible to users, are keywords, for instance, that are embedded into the code. there is time and date stamp that time, and a lot of times it is hidden or it is not shown to the users, or it is designed in certain way that it should not come up for the user to look at, but nevertheless it is collected and it is held as a record, which by the way can be queried. So in other words, you can actually do a deeper query of finding information which is not visible, yet it may be of importance in certain situations, mainly in when you're collecting evidence or you're doing some due diligence, doing deep search into finding things about the site, or if there is a plagiarism issue, you want to track time and date stamp, you can do so by querying into the code, because code is what has been read and that's where the information is collected. Now, the second part is for me to connect what is shown here in the snippet as pieces or three elements of information and where it is collected from the backend or under the hood or the HTML part. So not to get worried about the complexity of how this code is set, we are not learning HTML. So not that we are talking about how the programs are done or how the HTML works, but most important is just to recognize the fact or the basis of where the information is held and is read and it is matched with your search terms. That's where we are opening up or going under the hood. Now, let's look at where the title part is coming, okay? So if you look at the code, there is what we call tags in HTML. By the way, we do not have to learn, and this is the only thing that I will talk about as far as HTML language is concerned. Not much is expected for you to learn, except that there are things called meta tags or tags. Tags are labels, or tags are the type of information that allows you to read what is held inside of tags. Like I said, they're like labels. So if you have different buckets of info, and each of those buckets have got a label that says that this is the information that's held inside of bucket X or bucket Y or Z, you would be able to think of each label as tags. Tags is what is going to create the parameter or tell you where the information is held or what type of information is held, depending on what the label reads. So if the label or the tag says title, and within title or within that bucket, you have only the information about the title of that page, or that is the only thing that you want to discover or match your search terms within the title area, you're going to run a query using an operator called inTitle, for instance. We're not getting there yet, but I'm just giving you a reference to what we'll connect to later. So if it is inTitle colon, and then you're going to put your search term, it is going to look for it in that bucket, which is labeled title. And in terms of what HTML tells us is that these are called tags, okay? And there are two types of tags. One is called meta tags, or meta, as you could understand, meta is a higher level, or it is the main information, the collected, or it is the main label that has the information about what the site is offering in terms of products and services. Just a you know a broad level of information that tells you what site is about. Basically, just keep that in mind, nothing more. So for us to consider anything that has the term meta attached to it, meta is the higher level or the meta level or the main information. So when we are looking at what is shown here in purple color as the title part, it is being pulled from a tag called title. So here you could see that there is a tag called title, and this information that is contained in it, Association of Internet Research Specialists, that is pulled from the meta tag or the tag called title. It doesn't have the meta written on it. Maybe there is another one. Anyway, we are not learning HTML. Here it is, meta property title. Actually, this number 8 you have to ignore. It doesn't have the word meta in it, but when the ones that are non-meta tags, like the one in line 8, where it is red, it is going. I'll talk about it later. But right now we're talking about meta information or meta tag. Incidentally, this page actually is taking or is pulling information from the main home page. So it has a meta title um, right over here. And then there is a second layer, which is called the URL part. URL is discovered in a tag called base href. This is not part of the meta tag, but it is one of those tags that are read and information is pulled from here to be presented in your search result. Third one is the description. So if you go to the description tag, it would say description somewhere. Here it is, I think. Meta name description in line 7. So it is, just pulling information from here. And the ones that you will not be able to discover are the keywords. Keywords are important in so many different ways that are to be discovered or to be used, especially in comparative intelligence collection. And when you're doing your marketing, Admira would know better that keywords are somewhat crucial for you to manage and to match, or to at least find your competitors who has similar keywords. So you do collect keywords from your competitors as well. Uh, but we are not doing SEO either. So let's just say that this piece of information is called meta tag, and it's a meta tag called keyword, which is not going to show this information or these keywords in your in your page that you're looking at. And by the way, there would be so many other tags which are non-meta in nature, like and those are important tags. We'll talk about that. We'll discover them later. I don't want to confuse you. So far, you know where this information is coming from in the snippet. You know it's coming from the HTML, and it is coming from the tags, meta tags, and also some information could be from non-meta, but this is just giving you an overview. So let's just assume that all three pieces are generated or collected from these pages. Now, I'm going to give you, before we end up with figuring out how the indexing system is connected to it. Because remember, the entire game of how web pages or the content of web pages is dissected, or it is basically, disassembled, let's say, at the type of indexing, and it is disassembled for the purpose of labeling that specific pieces of information or the specific content area as being important or most important, less important, and also for someone who wants to make a choice of using certain type of search operators, they would have to understand what part of the page contains that info. So we are going to still be talking about HTML or the back end of it. By the way, did you know how to discover the HTML part of any website? I mean, it is not a code that you won't be able to look to be able uh, to find and to check into and to discover those keywords and things of that nature. So let's suppose we have let's just I'm going to use a notepad. Um, as a whiteboard. Okay, I don't have the necessary tools for a whiteboard. So let's say AOFIRS.org, AIIB.org. Let's take these examples. And if I run the query and open up the page, I want you to see how the source code is discovered. Any one of you know how the source code gets discovered, or how do you get to the source code or the HTML code of the pages? If not, I'll show you how it is going to appear. So let's take the page certification. Okay. If I want to see what's in the HTML, come on now, this is so no wonder people are upset about this pop-up that's showing up every 3 seconds. Hold on, I am going to do a right click on the page. Can do it anywhere. Just do right click. And here you see it says view page source. I'm going to click on it and it's going to open up the HTML site. So this is the code. So I can see what is in this page. So you could see there is meta name keywords, and these are all the keywords that are used on this specific page, which is the certification page, okay, of AOFIRS. Similarly, I have the description right here. Okay, so just so you know how to open up the source code, it's very simple. That's all. Okay, coming back to okay, this is the simpler one. So Michelle is asking if inspect does, okay, so this is view source. Inspect element is another utility. Let me answer Michelle first. I'm going to go back to the page. Now, if you since you have used the word elements, I just want you to know there is something called elements, and you can see the word inspect. So if you click on inspect, it is going to show you something different from what you would view in page source. But what we are talking about is exclusively page source and not inspect. Inspect is going to show you where a certain function is happening to identify with the lines of the code. This is for the programmers mainly. So I won't worry about it, but just so that you don't have curiosity anymore, if you do click on elements instead of view page source, this type of information will appear. And on top, you will have things like element, console, sources, network, and all that. What it is showing is that as you hover over certain pieces of information or certain areas in the page, you could see that it is going to start to highlight that area. And it is mostly used for something called, identifying with the lines of the codes that actually run for, whatever you're highlighting on the page. So ignore this totally. When we are doing view source instead, we are actually looking at the entire page of information that is held inside of that page, including the one that is otherwise not discovered from the user side. So that should answer it. Don't need this. Okay, going back to the okay. See, the pages that are collected in the index of search engines. These are individually collected, obviously. So they all have a unique ID to it. You know, when it is called or when it is pushed in the ranking system of discoverability, it has its individual calling or it has its individual IDs. So basically, and since in the snippet we are getting those pages that it brings to us, we should have some understanding of how those pages are discovered or given priorities or given the relevance for it to be present um, as a result of your search query. So where is it going to make that selection or how it is going to read the page is important. You have to understand that. And for me to make it easy for you, I'm going to use something here as a generic diagram of what typically looks like a home page. Okay. And I want you also to keep in mind the fact that what we are going to talk about right now, you can also relate it to your hands-on experience with, how you navigate or look at the web pages. So typically, the web page itself is divided into 3-4 portions, basically. The one on top, we call header, and the header has a logo, the main navigation. Sometimes there's a search box here. This is called the header. Header, usually, I don't know if you, and again, like I said, you have to visualize and connect. Anytime that you go on website, don't you see that the header remains the same or the top portion remains intact, while what keeps moving or keeps changing is the middle portion, and even the footer part, which is the third element or the one that is at the very bottom of a page. This part also remains constant. It has information like, links, it has, uh, you know, contact and things of that, which is pretty much constant. So what really moves for the information page is to shuffle from one link to another or keep moving, or is the dynamic part of the content is the middle portion or the belly of it. Okay. So this part, that is the middle part, we call body of text, or it is where most of the information is changing, is available, or it contains most of the elements of discoverability for matching your search terms. At times, we also call the middle portion as a deeper search, or for the text that keeps scrolling down, because it could be a very long page, and for anything that needs to be matched within the body of text means that you are doing a search we call a deep search, a search that we do with using the operator called in text. In text is the one that does those types of searches that actually discovers or matches in the body or in the deeper layers of text. Whereas when you're doing in title with a colon, now don't get me wrong, I'm not actually teaching you advanced operators yet. These are advanced operators, but I'm just trying to connect what you're going to learn about more later as something that needs to have basis of where this information or where it connects with. So for now, let's just say we have three different zones or three different slices or dissection of how the web pages are distributing content. What we have in the header area is mostly meta tags. What is running this part or what is showing the header portion is the code, the HTML code, and that HTML code or that portion which contains meta information or metadata mostly is the one responsible for making the headers appear as they look to the user. Okay. The second part, which is the body of text, is carrying information that is of non-meta nature, which means that it is not something that is talking about the site overall. It is not talking about the title part of the website. it is basically giving you more details of other sort of informations and other type of content that is separate from what typically is held in the header. Okay. So this is the middle portion. Footer usually has URLs, and we're not worried much about URLs. We'll talk about it later. So 3 areas we need to be mindful of. Now, what is going to give me on the left hand side is just an explanation or a brief view of or brief write up of what web header is about, what body of text is, and what footer is. So 3 portions. That's all you have to know, right? Too much information, eh? You didn't think that there would be so much to learn in this technology part. What do you say? Is it, are you following it? Is it okay for everybody, or someone is a little behind?
I'm totally loving it,
Oh, excellent.
but I'm geeky
So
that way.
what?
I'm geeky that way.
All right. So you are the one from the tech, you are more on the technical side, and you understanding it, maybe it's ABC for you, is it?
Yes, but I needed a refresher. I created a bunch of web pages, taken HTML over the years, but it's been a while.
Yeah, and the thing about where it's going to lead us is even more interesting. Once we get done with the boring part, then we have the exciting part that's going to make you a better researcher with an understanding of how a certain search queries would be reacted to or would be responded to by the search engine. So you're basically going to start to read the mind of how the search is going to interpret it. That's even more exciting, right? All right, Anna, I am going to not make it too difficult. And I'm going to skip some of the slides for now because I want to take you to something that's not going to be as boring. So let's skip through some of these. And how about if I give you a simulation of how actual indexing process happens to give you an idea of what or how the search engine is going to start to separate the content areas and the information within and make it more organized for it to respond to your search queries. So I'm going to get to that slide. It is moving slow for some reason. Just give me a minute here. Just break out of this. Mhm. Yeah, this should be good. Even though could be better slides, but generally it's all right. Okay, so now let's look at how the indexing process happens at the time when the pages are collected through the search engine spiders, robots, or bots, without having to worry about what these are. All we have to think of is when the pages are actually brought by whoever or whatever mechanism, how it is looked at by the indexing system of search engine before it can actually start to organize it. Indexing obviously means organizing something that you can get to later on in the easiest way, which means that it has a science to it, or it has a method to it, for something to be retrieved easily from the information databases. And that's what we are going to assume with what indexing is supposed to look like, or what it's supposed to be doing. So this page is what we are simulating as something that is already held in the index, uh, or something which we are going to talk about as a reference page. So assuming that this is the page, nothing else to it, um, what the search is looking at, first of all, let's see. It is going to read the header part. It is going to look at the meta information first. It wants to know at a meta level, or at a higher level, to see what the site is about, what the products and services are about, what is the nature of this site. Is it e-commerce site? Is it just services? And so on. So it is going to make its first decision, or it is going to make its uh, first level or first layer of organizational decision of how it's going to be categorized. All right. So what it will look at is the meta tags. It looked at the title first. Okay. Then it looked at the description, or whatever information is held within the description tag. What are the meta keywords? Then it does a little bit of its math. What that math is, without worrying about the details of it, just think of it as a collection of information at a, again, meta level. It is going to look at number of words, because search engine obviously is something which does not deal with anything that is outside of its rules, its policies, or it is information that is beyond the boundaries of what it's supposed to be looking at, and what's supposed to be ignoring. So it has its ways and views of how it's going to interpret these numbers. For now, let's just say, since it's there already in the slides, can just have a glance at what it is collected. It looks at number of words. It looks at links on the pages, external links, internal links. Because we haven't gone there yet, most important for you is to just observe how the meta tags, or meta description, or meta keywords are collected, to get an overview. Okay. Next is that it is going to strip the entire page into words. It won't even care about whether there are any captions, whether there is paragraphs, or there are files that has a name to it. Could be multimedia files but with a textual name. What it is doing is just going to strip the entire text out of it, out of that page, and lay it out as it is shown in this area. This is just a small excerpt from the page, or the content page of the entire text. So I want you to observe that certain number of words, or certain words, are in red colors. Other words you could see are underlined. And basically that's the three elements, or the three things that you have to know what is the distinguishing features in this. So the ones that are in red color, we call them stop words. Words like becoming, of, in. It is not a noun. It is just verbs, adverbs, adjectives. The, for, you, will be, to you. Search engine does not want to include this as part of its standard algorithmic process of matching keywords, and therefore these are not counted as part of your search terms, and therefore these are also called negative keywords, or ignored keywords. Generally we call them stopped words, words that search engine wouldn't account for, or would intentionally ignore. That's all. Then the words that are not underlined, and these colors and underlined, that's not what search engine gave us. This is what we have done to explain things to you. Okay. But search, and as I mentioned to you, for whatever reason, these are separated as three different types of individual keywords. Just focus on what they're about. So the ones that are not underlined are individually are given a high value individually as single keywords, like password. Search engine knows through its own machine learning and its own wisdom, it knows that as a single word, it has a meaning or a deeper meaning for search. It has deeper meaning for the word account because it usually does not attach to any other word, or it has the ability to be identified as more important as a single word. Okay. Able, choose, password, user account, username, email, all these are single words. But let's look at the ones that are underlined. These underlined words have a very peculiar or very, a difficulty level for the search engine to make some sense out of, because when you look at these words or the sequence in which they are put, they could be mixed and matched or may connect with each other with what is coming in sequence or what is coming one after another, or it could have a meaning that gets connected from one word to the third word or the third to the fifth, as if individually these can be connected or put together as having more of a meaning together with added words, or the context needs to be added to individual words. So board members could be two words, board management could be the another word, board team or management team could be two words. So all these combinations would have a ranking value or a ranking system or some sort of importance when they combine with each other in any way or in any sequence or in any combination. So these are the ones that are underlined. And therefore, a way in which algorithms are fine-tuned or they are given some intelligence or given a linguistic intelligence in a lexical way, or even in the cognitive sense, it would be discovered by those that are underlined. Okay. So these are, how, Anna, are you okay with it? I don't get confused. It's not something that is going to be, it's not
No, no,
it's not one
no,
of
no.
those technology things for which we would have to learn anything beyond or go and do more in depth.
Yeah.
This is pretty much it.
Okay.
All right. So this is, I mean, it's painful now, but it's going to make things so much easier for you later. Even if you can connect to the conceptual part without being specific to, what the underlying words are. So don't take it literally. Think of it as if it is just to give you a sense of what it is about or what, in what sense we are using it. Okay. In a general way. All right. So let's go to the next one. Okay. This is where the tables are put together, meaning that at the time of indexing, while it has done the previous two processes, this is going to be the next few, which is what is shown under the headings like main text headings and and subheadings and then keywords grouped and all that. So what we are looking at is a sequential of or a sequence of how that particular page before it is even indexed, it's going to give certain information for it to be considered as valuable or as having an impact in the search for search results. Okay. What we are showing on the left hand side is tags, as I said, there are meta tags, non-meta tags. We are now entering into non-meta tags. Don't have to learn them yet. All you have to know is being non-meta, it is given a label. Each non-meta label can have a different way of how it is written. Like in H1, H2, H3, H4 could be another set of labels that are particularly used to enclose captions or the main headings. So if the tags non-meta tag has information like benefits of CIRS certification and it is given a number H1, means that it has a precedence over H2, also means that this is the main heading. which says benefits of CIRS certification. This is important for the index to capture because it thinks and it is programmed to think that these are important pieces of information taken out of those pages. H2 is a subheading to H1 because it has the number 2, or it is increasing from 1 to 2 to 3. So it is giving a sort of an hierarchy of what is considered as main heading versus what is considered as subheading, and so on. 100. And so this is one set. Then you've got another thing that it is going to calculate is that it's going to look at what is the word density of certain words to appear, or how many times certain words are appearing on that page. Words, remember, is what is being played with all along with when we do our searches. It is only the keywords and the search phrases that it's going to match for and identify with your search queries. So in terms of the words, it is going to look for the frequency of how many times a single word is appeared on that page. For instance, if it is the word research, it has a count of 35 words. Internet is the second highest number of occurrences. So the word internet comes 22 times. Similarly, it is going to now start to look for two words as sequential, or as they're phrased with the way they're set, two words internet research together. So it is a phrase that that it has a value for the search because it is appeared 10 times on that particular page with combinations. Similarly, research specialist came 4 times, and so on and so forth. The maximum that we know of thus far that the search engine is counting is 3 words, or at least the maximum that it is going to start to organize its index in its index in terms of density, at least, is a combination of 3 words at the most. Since this is just an example, it is more extensive of a list when you actually do a simulation. But for now, this is just giving you a visual of how it could be explained better as one of the functions. Now, there could be linked words, there could be non-linked words. We don't have to worry about linked or non-linked words. When we are doing SEO training, or we're talking about something to do with, learning at advanced level of research or search, we talk about non-linked, linked words and all that. But for our course, with the way it is explained in the book, you don't have to, you only have to just follow my lead in what I'm explaining. And if you see something extra in the slide, if I feel that it is worth explaining or it has any value, I'll do it on my own, but not to get you confused and get you entangled into technical terms. Please ignore linked words and non-linked words for now. Okay. So that's the parts that we finished up with indexing of words. Now talk about URLs. I wished we had done URLs earlier so that it becomes easy for me to explain this, but I'm sure you are familiar, or some of you are. So let me give it a shot. Now, there are 3 different types of URLs that actually occupy that individual pages. And there could be, so many different URLs in there. There could be navigational, internal navigational, external links, or links that that connects you with external websites. Oh, really? Okay. So, Anna, sorry for the interruption right now. I think before we forget, I'm going to send a link right now to Anna for the Dropbox. She said she didn't get it, and that's very important. And I would have to leave right after we finish tonight. So before I forget to send her an email, let me just give that link to her. Can you copy this and put it on your side? Can
Let
you
me
make sure
see.
that you've gotten it? Okay.
Uh,
Did it
I-
come?
I didn't see anything to I haven't seen anything to copy.
No, I put it in the chat. I'm just wondering.
On the, yeah, well, I'm looking at the chat as well.
It is not in this meeting. It says you're not in this meeting. Okay, hold on. I'll
Oh,
send it to
Just send
what's
it to
going
my
on.
email. Send it to my email.
No, I don't. Let me just send it, try it right now. Try this one.
Okay, I should put this in my email?
Yes, please. No, just put it on, just copy and paste it on your somewhere on your notepad or. Okay, then I'll have to ask someone to send you an email later.
Okay,
Yeah, but over the weekend, I'm sure this would be more helpful if you could just simply copy it. You can even click on it.
Yeah.
And then copy it somewhere.
Yeah.
Try that one.
I've clicked on it and it's copying at the moment, downloading.
All right. Okay. Okay. So the URLs, the message.
3 types of URLs is what you said.
Yes, 3 types of URLs. There is ones that are internal, or that which means that they are linked to your own domain or the domain of where you are browsing inside of a certain website. Or it could be external link, which means it's on, these are the links that are on the website itself. But when you click on it, it's taking you out of that site and taking you to another domain or another third-party websites. That's external links. Then we've got links that are called inbound links. Inbound links are the ones which is not in your control, but they are held on other websites, which is a clickable link, and that sort of links anyone coming from outside through that URL onto your website or this particular website. And this would make it an inbound link. So if you've got a lot of traffic coming as inbound links, it means that your site is obviously more popular because there's a lot more people coming or traffic coming on your website. So it may have a significance to the search ranking system. Then if you have too many outbound links, which means links that's going to take you or break you out of that particular domain or site you're on, it means that it is just going to add a negative point to the efficiency or to the value or the popularity of that site on based on the fact that you are basically, your site is leading people outside of that domain. So there is more of the traffic going or breaking out of your own domain name. That's the SEO part. So there are these links. So all these different links are actually shown in this example as one of the ways in which indexing gives a particular importance to the links that are visible or that are there in the HTML or on those web pages. In this case, this particular web page has so many of these links you could see right here. Okay. So when these links are collected, they are collected with reference to the title tag, meaning that it is now going to start to make relationship between the URLs and the content title of that page. So if the link, which is airsassociation.org, is to be read in terms of what it is about, it is going to read the title. Remember, there was another non-meta title tag, which is what was there in the last line of when we were looking at the code. Anyway, the title, let's just make it simple. The title part has got information about the page or what this link is going to take you to as a title of the page. That's going to be the number of words or the sequence of words. which is discoverable or which you are able to get to or query by using an operator called in URL. So anyway, these relationships are created, and this is giving you a sneak preview of how the search engine is doing its indexing, or how it is collecting certain sets of information, or how those information pieces are kept separately as organized in the index, with these being the differentiators or different areas, which, by the way, eventually are going to be worked on by the search operators. Okay, so we will only do up till what we have done today. Rest of it we don't have to worry about right now. Everything else is irrelevant. What was most important is your understanding of how the search engines are different from browsers, what are data centers, what is ISPs, and you can discover more if you decide to learn or elaborate. If you need more elaborate information, you can refer to the book. And by the way, I hope you know what I'm talking about when I'm referring to the book. I'm talking about CIRS Training Guide 5.0. And that is got a folder named, as I mentioned, exactly the same. So if you click on that, open that, that's the book, which is where you would be focused on throughout the CIRS course as your main guide. Okay, everything else that is surrounding or reference material, or even the slides and some of the other material I'm going to insert in there, that's ancillary or secondary to your core book or the core guide. Okay. Just keep that in mind. If you don't find anything anywhere else, two things you can refer to: the book of the 5.0 training guide or the recording. That should be sufficient. So if you have any questions right now, I'm available to you for whatever we have covered thus far. Any questions on these topics are most welcome. So everybody's all right. Everything was good today. You thought, and you thought it would be easy, eh? Michelle, Crystal. By the way, Crystal, are you there still? Just wondering, because it does happen quite often. I mean, I see the
Yes, I'm
logged
here.
in and all right, good. So Crystal, can I, since we've got introduced to everybody, everybody got introduced to each other. I was hoping that you can tell a little bit about us, very brief, just so that we know why you've taken the course, if there's something of interest to you or helps you in a professional way, for your work needs and all that. Maybe that area we can be uh, you know explaining it more detail. So if you can give us a little bit on, a little bit of background of you and your interest in CRS, reason for it.
Okay. I'm Crystal Sanders. I'm from Chicago. I've been in IT off and on for about 20 years. And I wanted to just further my knowledge with internet research. Just nothing really in particular so far, just learning more
All
about the internet and how I can pull information from it.
right. So what part of IT were you engaged in with your with what you're doing with IT previously? What's your experience
Um,
with the information?
I mostly have done mostly software, um, work with software. Like I started off with software support, moved over to quality assurance, and now I'm transitioning to cybersecurity. So I guess that's another reason why I wanted to delve more into internet research.
Okay. So what we can help you with, and what this course would do for you, is give you an in-depth understanding of how the search queries are read, and how the results are delivered in terms of, the search engine's own logics of interpreting user intent behind the search, combining a little bit of technical part, which we are almost done with. It's not going to be as extensive, but more importantly, how the search queries are going to be read, or how the bias of the search engines can be neutralized. What could be different methods, certain type of information that can be discovered or is embedded in the coding part, that we can collect for evidences, we can collect for different reasons. So that is the major area of interest that certainly would help you.
Mhm.
So good luck, and thanks for joining, and thank you everybody for coming in today. We're still missing 7 more students. I don't know where they've disappeared. They didn't show up today. Hopefully next week we'll get to meet them as well. So once again, thank you so much, and have a great weekend and a safe one and a pleasant one. So
Thank you.
bye-bye and thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.